Hi guys, and welcome to my channel. Today I'm going to show you how I made these vegan sausages using vital wheat gluten and tofu. The recipe is quite easy to make, which I really enjoyed, and this is the texture of the sausage. It's more of a breakfast sausage, but really you can have it in anything. I ended up eating it alongside some tofu scramble and vegetables at one point, and then I also made hot dogs with them, and I ate them alongside some pancakes. So here's how I made them. And these are all the dry ingredients that I used, starting with the vital wheat gluten, nutritional yeast, tapioca flour, garlic and onion powder, of course my chicken flavoring, all the herbs, and I've included some rice paper. That's optional. These are all the wet ingredients. I have maple syrup, liquid aminos, sesame seed oil, browning, I didn't use that until the end, and of course the tofu. And you will find a list of all the ingredients in the description box below. Now let's get started. First, we start off with 1.5 cups of vital wheat gluten. We then add 1/2 cup of nutritional yeast, 2 tablespoons of tapioca flour, and 1 tablespoon of the vegan chicken flavor. I use the Awesome brand. I then added 1 teaspoon of poultry seasoning, 1 teaspoon of thyme, 1 teaspoon of marjoram, 1/4 teaspoon of nutmeg, and 1/4 teaspoon of black pepper. You can add more if you'd like. Here you see me adding 2 teaspoons of onion powder and 2 teaspoons of garlic powder. Now I didn't have a grinder for my fennel, so what I did was I actually included it in with the wet mixture because I was going to blend that all together, and I didn't want the whole fennel seeds. So this is why you see me adding it with the wet mixture. So I started off with all of these ingredients here, and they will also be listed in the description box below. I used my blender cup. This is the only blender cup I use for all my recipes, if you've seen my previous videos. And we're going to start off with 1/2 a block of tofu, 3 tablespoons of liquid aminos, 2 tablespoons of sesame seed oil. If you don't have sesame seed oil, feel free to use whichever one you have. 2 tablespoons of maple syrup, adjust as needed depending on the sweetness that you would like. And here are the fennel seeds. Now I blended those up until very smooth. And if you see on the next clip, I did add 3/4 cups of water to that. So once it was all blended until smooth, I mixed my dry ingredients and added the wet mixture. And once your dry ingredients are mixed well, you're going to pour in the wet mixture. I went ahead and used a small spatula and combined the wet and dry ingredients together until they started forming a dough ball. I then went in with my hands and kneaded the dough for about 5 minutes or until all the wet and dry ingredients were combined well. Now, if you needed to, if you found that your dough was too dry, you could add a tablespoon of water at a time until you are comfortable with the dough. Now, I went ahead and I cut the dough ball into 4 pieces. I then took those 4 pieces and cut them into 3 pieces each, resulting in a total of 12 sausages. So I used foil to create the sausage shape. I really didn't have anything else to use, and this worked well for me. I don't think I'll be making them very often, so I don't feel bad about the amount of foil I use. I try not to use foil. Anyways, I pretty much take them in my hand and form a sausage shape or the length of a sausage, and then I simply roll it in the foil and twist the ends of that to keep them nice and tight. I did repeat this clip multiple times so that you can get a good idea of how I made it, but this was pretty easy. At least, well, for me, it wasn't too hard. But here you could see how I took the foil paper and I cut it into 2 pieces. Next time, I'll probably cut it into 3 pieces, being that I felt that I used a little bit more than I had to. But it's a learning process. We learn as we go, right? So here's what I did. Once again, I'm forming that dough by squeezing it, simply putting it down on the foil right in the middle as best as you can, and then just rolling it until it is completely rolled, and then twisting the ends like so, like that. And once that you have rolled all your dough into sausage shapes, you're going to go ahead and steam them for no more than 40 minutes. Like I said, this recipe was actually made in less than an hour, which I was really impressed with. Here are the sausages after the 40-minute steaming time. This is what they look like when I remove the foil. Now they're ready. You can simply brown them in your skillet and serve them. But if you're like me and you like a little extra bite, a little extra texture, stick around. This here is how I made the sausages wrapped in rice paper. So I simply took a tablespoon of that consomme, chicken flavored, and 2 teaspoons of browning, and I mixed that into a pan. I used this rice paper here. If you wanted to cut it, you could simply fold it and that'll do the trick. If you want to be neat about it, you can take some kitchen shears and cut that rice paper right through the middle there. Now for the actual broth that I dunked them in, I did boil it, or brought it to a boil, and then I turned it off, just because the hotter the water is, or the broth is, the more flexible the rice paper is to roll the sausage in. So if you see here, I've gone ahead and I rolled it. I did similar to when I did it with the foil paper. I took the ends, and if the rice paper is wet enough, it clings to each other. It does become very sticky, so do not put your sausages next to each other, like touching each other, or they will stick. Same thing goes for when you put them in the oven, because that's how I reheated them. This was actually like after 2 days of having the sausages in the fridge. I did this to serve them. And like I said, you could simply brown them right after they're steamed. But if you wanted it to look pretty and more aesthetic, if you're serving it for someone and you want to impress them, this is the way to do it. The rice paper does not have that much of a chewy consistency, especially because you only wrap it around the sausage once, but it does give it a nice little texture. So here I am showing you once again how I put the rice paper in the broth. I then wrap it around the sausage until the rice paper overlaps just a little bit. I take the ends and I twist them together until they stick. So sometimes I hold it down a few seconds to make sure that they are sticking to each other, just like that. And then I take my scissors and cut the ends off. I then roll them in oil and I bake them for 30 minutes. I did use the rest of that broth to brush onto them as they were baking. I guess you can call it basting. So I did that about 3 times while the sausages were baking. The rice paper does tend to harden when you're baking it. So this is why I felt that I had to add some more of that broth. I simply took a brush and I brushed it on maybe like 10 minutes in, and then in another 10 minutes I did it again. You do want to oil them pretty good so that they don't stick onto your oven pan. But other than the fact that you have to watch them, and baste them a few times, they're pretty much ready to eat. And they look beautiful. And they taste delicious. I hope you've enjoyed this video, and I hope that you have a chance to recreate this recipe. Thank you so much for watching. If you do recreate it, I would love to see your results and get some of your feedback. As you've probably noticed, I've turned off the comments on my YouTube videos because I now have a full-time job and don't have time to look at all my social media pages. But if you would like to leave a comment, please follow me at Yessie's Plant-Based Diet on Instagram. I am on TikTok, but I rarely use that anymore. So yeah, please do share your results. I'd like to hear your feedback. Also, thank you so much to the Seitan Appreciation Society. Because of them, I have had so many great ideas that I am happy to share with you all. I hope that you guys are all enjoying this beautiful weekend, and I hope that you guys are staying safe and healthy.